Hi, and welcome to Origin of Concepts. In this episode, I'll reveal for you where the inspiration to the wreath up here, there, comes from, because it's a significant symbol used, especially in the Greek Roman area, but also today, a very famous symbol. The wreath symbolize eternal life and immortality of spirit. In ancient Greece and Rome, athletes and military leaders uh, wore the laurel wreath as a sign of victory and honor. And you also see the Caesar, Julius Caesar, and other Roman figures, is wearing this wreath around the head. But also, a lot of goddesses also wearing the hair is set up like a wreath, or they wearing all kind of leaves and wreaths and stuff like that on their head. And it's no secret that the wreath is based or made with inspiration from the Milky Way center. So let's take a look at it here. The wreath is the striped shadow in the Milky Way center. And let me outline it here. Here we got the striped shadow. It's also the crescent. Let me outline it like this. So here you got the wreath with all the stuff inside. And the meaning when they looked up there at this time when they invent the wreath, it was like a crown around the head. And the striped shadow is the crown, and the head is of course the golden disc here behind. So you have to imagine that the red is wrapped around the head, because that's what the striped shadow here is supposed to do. Let me try to redraw it here. If I do something like this and use another color, we could use a green. Then we got the red here is like the crown around the head of the king or the pharaoh or the tsar or whatever. So that's the basic element you need to understand. The striped shadow is wrapped around the divine disk light from the Milky Way center, and that's what gives the wreath around the head. But why? Because what is immortality and eternal life or of spirit and stuff like that? Where does this idea come from? We can go to ancient Egypt and ancient Mesopotamia, but let me explain exactly what it's all about. Because the wreath represents the annual rebirth of the divine disk light. The coming of the divine light in heaven, not the sun, not the stars, but the divine light in the Milky Way center. And this happens very short after winter solstice. We got the winter solstice here in the northern hemisphere. It's like December 21, between December 21 and 22. And then we got the celebration of Christmas, on the December 25th. And that's exactly what we're celebrating. Not the sun at winter solstice, but the recoming of the disk light, the divine light from the Creator. So that's very important to understand. And that was the most, the divine disk light here. In Egypt, it was known as the Aten disc, the golden disc, and also the Mayans was also using the golden disc, and everywhere you see gold. So this is the re-emerging of the gold in heaven and not the sun. That's it must never be misinterpreted with the sun, because then we got it all wrong. Witches have been for the past 2,000 years. Everybody think, oh, it's the sun. Yeah, it's the gold in the sky. No, it's the golden disc. All right, and that's why it's so important, that kings wear crowns, the divine crown, and princesses and queens, they wear the silver crown. And let me, before I go on here with the red, let me outline the silver crown for you, because this is the crown, and the queen is the silvery shadow here, and the king is the golden part of the Milky Way here. So that's why the striped shadow, or the red, is also the diadem or silver crescent. It's even the womb of the mother. So, but that will be for another video. So now you know where to find the red. And just to point it out, the red has nothing to do with the cycle of the sun or winter solstice to do. So now you know that. The various evergreen leaves that the wreath is made of symbolize the olive-colored center of the Milky Way. And let me outline it for you. This is the green part of the Milky Way here. So that's why you see all kinds of vegetation inside the wreath, because it has to symbolize exactly this green place of the Milky Way center, the earth, the manifestation of God, so to speak, the divine in the mortal world. When the disk light here, it's shining, or it's into the striped shadow here, and put the divine into the mortal world, into the king, and then he has to pass it on to his followers and stuff like that. Or it's also the divine light is also an allegory of wisdom. So or the winner, he must wear the red, because he made it all the way from the darkest, mind to enlightenment. So all these evergreens is an allegory of the striped shadow in the Milky Way center. And there's plenty of them, because the wreath can be made of laurel, corn straw, oak leaves, thorn bush, acacia, olives, etc., etc., etc. All of them, it's the same. Okay, and then let's now I'll delete this and redraw it, because I'll try to make the wreath like this, because it gives a better understanding. You have to see this shadow like a circle surrounding the golden disc, or at least you can see here in the picture, you always got this connection point in the bottom, and that's the golden disc, because that's the source where everything is offspring, the point of offspring, and it creates the annual cycle. So here we got the golden disc, and here we got the wreath. We often see the wreath is placed on graves as a symbol of eternal life or eternal soul of the deceased. And the Milky Way cinder is uh, basically the origin of the concept of putting dead people in a grave because it's the big graveyard, or sorry, the big tomb in the sky. And here you see the red is put on top of the tomb or the grave of the deceased. But the wreath is also hung on doorways, and the Milky Way center is the great door between the divine and the mortal world. And the striped shadow here is basically, in many myths, it's used as the pillar holding up the temple. But it could also be this is also the big door. Let me see if I can illustrate it like this. Here. And here we got the handles on the door. This is the big doorway in heaven, the entrance to the temple, the entrance to the afterlife, and the blind doors, so to speak. And here, right on the door, we got the wreath. So, to point out that this is the doorway to the eternal spirit. No matter if you are in the divine side or the mortal side. So that's the symbol by hanging it on the door. Okay, I'll go give some examples here from the Greek mythology, because that's the origin of the wreath, or it's from Greek mythology, it's most famous. Apollo and Daphne from Greek mythology. After the nymph Daphne escaped Apollo by transforming into a laurel tree, a heartbroken Apollo declared that he would always wear the laurel tree, making it a symbol of his love and victory. And yeah, Apollo is also a character based on the golden disc light, and Daphne is the white shadow here with the female poster here. You can see her in some of my other videos, but she is standing here. So this is the play between the love between, a man and a woman, of course, a god of goddess. And here the wreath is also playing in, because he's a symbol of a laurel tree, and the laurel tree is, of course, the entire Milky Way center here. This is the tree in the sky. Zeus and wisdom from Greek myth here. After the nymph Daphne escaped Apollo by transforming into a laurel tree. Oh, sorry. Zeus and wisdom. Laurel and oak leaves were used for wreaths, with oak symbolizing wisdom. And let me draw the oak tree here again. This is the good old oak in the sky. So that's why you got oak leaves associated with Zeus, and I guess also Jupiter, and and everything ascending from those characters. And these oak leaves was believed to make divine decision within oak grooves. Yeah, so Zeus make divine decision inside the oak grooves. And of course, because it's here, we got the wisdom with the divine light from the golden disk in the Milky Way center. And then we also got similar stories in the Slavic myth, because in the Slavic summer solstice, it's known as Wianki, where young women would weave wreaths of herbs and flowers during midsummer. And notice that, midsummer, to cast them into rivers for love, divination. And these wreaths were believed to protect against evil spirits and dragons. and this dragon's name was Smay, as I remember. Yeah, let me check here. Yeah, Zmay, Smay. And let me tell you a little bit about this Slavic story, because now I have to make the red again here. Here we got the Wreath. So here we got. Okay. Casting wreaths into the river at midsummer is an allegory of the disc light falling into the water. Because at midsummer, not summer solstice, but a few days after summer solstice, the Milky Way is starting tilting back over to its horizontal position at the Christmas Eve. And therefore, the striped shadow here is start tilting into the water. And when the Milky Way starts to tilt right after midsummer, let me make the river here. The red is falling into the water because the striped shadow here is also the river in the sky. So here you got the red in the water. And why did the females put the red into the water? Because the silvery shadow here represents the female in the sky, throwing the reds into the water. And to top it all off, she wants to protect. They do it. They put the red into the water to protect against the evil dragon and spirits. And this dragon is, of course, the striped shadow here, and it could even have the mouth here, because this is the dragon in the sky, shown in many myth, and breathing fire, because the golden disc here is like the fire from the mouth. So here you got the dragon in the sky. So it all fits together, and again, a story based on the Milky Way Center. I got one more here, the Dionysian wreath from Greek myth. Dionysus, the god of wine, was said to wear an ivy or yifu wreath to ward off harmful effects of alcohol. Wreaths of ivory or wine were used at symposia. And again, the wine is the red light from the divine disk light in the Milky Way Center. And the wine plants is, of course, the stripes here, the red in the striped shadow, and the wine or the golden light from the disc is flowing into the herbs here. So he could make a wreath to prevent the effects of alcohol. And then we got the Northern European Germanic Jule. That's in Denmark, where I live. We got Christmas Eve is called Juleaften because we got the Germanic version from Jule. And let me put that into perspective. Evergreens shaped into wreath were used to protect homes and symbolize the sun. Sun's return during the darkest part of winter, later becoming the basis for Advent wreaths, the Advent wreaths for Christmas with 4 candles. But it was, of course, not the returning of the sun in the midwinter. It was the returning of the divine light in the Milky Way center, like every other culture around the world. It's just been misinterpreted to the sun. But it's, of course, the coming of the light in the Milky Way center. And what happens exactly on December 25th is that it's the first day in the morning of December 25th. Well, depending on in which timeline we are in, this was a concept. It's like 3,000 years old. But what happens is the disk light, has been hidden behind the sun since the autumn. And now on this day and this morning, it pops up on the horizon, the return of the golden light. And I'll take one from Norse mythology also, so we can see it's the same concept around the world. Circularity was central in Norse mythology, with the reds representing the Norns. The Norns is some they are some entities spinning the fate, like weave or spin the fate, and the endless cycle of death and renewal. And let me put that into context here, because the wrath or the wreath here is also the they spinning the net, so to speak, or weaving, because this is the stripes here in the stripe shadow is the weaving of anything. You also got that in the American Native. They are making dream catchers and stuff like that. It all comes from this striped shadow here in the Milky Way center. And then, of course, one of the most famous is the Roman victories that are wreaths made of laurel, ivy, oak, wheat, or wine were given to military leaders and victors of athletic competitions, representing status and accomplishment. And we all know, when the Romans won, they also made the triumph, the arch, and of course the king must go through it here. And later in the Christian versions, we got some more openings. But this is the main concept, You go through the arch of victory, and then you receive the wrath here around your neck or around your head or whatever. So here you see it. And of course, the victory is also the victory of the coming or the re-emerging, the resurrected light from the divine divine light from the disk in the Milky Way center. So here you got it all. And now you know exactly what the wreath symbolize, or where it all originated, to use that kind of symbolic. All right, I think that's all. And if you got any questions, or you want to go deeper into the subject, leave a comment below. Thank you so much for watching, and until my next video, take care. See ya. Bye.